the middle powers must act together, because if we're not at the table, we're on the menu.
Somewhere Europe has to grow out of the mindset that Europe's problems are the world's problems, but the world's problems are not Europe's problems.
चुन चुन करके हिसाब लेना ये मेरी फितरत है.
Why should it be a problem if I'm smart enough to have multiple options? You should be admiring me.
भारत झुकने वाला भी नहीं.
The rise of India will be determined by India. It will be determined by our strength, not by the mistakes of others.
The old order is not coming back. We shouldn't mourn it. Nostalgia is not a strategy.
Hey guys, welcome to my channel. And in this video, we are going to talk about why America starts a war it cannot win. And it seems like as we see more and more wars, this is becoming a very hardcore fact. It's not some unusual one-time mistake or something. It just happens. Now, if you guys enjoy the deep analysis on global power, war, the dollar system, the machinery behind American strategy or global strategy, make sure to like and subscribe, okay? Because we are not talking about war in general today, okay? We are talking about a very specific system, very specific pattern, okay? Why United States keeps entering wars, overthrowing governments, spending trillions of dollars, destroying entire countries, and it still fails to produce stable victories. And this is where most people get the story wrong. They think that problem is bad planning or weak leadership or one failed president after another or lack of the appetite for the risk that comes with the war, like for example casualties or something. Everything, it all depends. So reasoning, basically what people say, depends on who is analyzing this. But the deeper problem is the system is not actually designed to produce peace, stability, or even clean victory. It is designed to trigger intervention, reward escalation, and monetize destruction. That's why America can start wars very easily, but it cannot finish them properly. And in many cases, it doesn't even need to win in traditional sense. Because people who drive the war machine, all right, people who drive the war machine, they are rewarded long before victory is ever achieved. So in this video, we are going to break down the 5 reasons why the United States starts war it cannot truly win, and why failure itself is often built into the system. So let's get started, guys. Let's get going. Please do like and subscribe, because your liking and subscribing definitely helps me in doing my job. Okay, so let's get started. Let's get going. Let's talk about why America starts wars it cannot win. So let me share my slide first. Okay, now first thing first, reason number 1. Okay, the reason number 1 is that US economy became addicted to war spending after World War II. Now some of you will be like, what do you mean by that? See, what I mean by that is this, that before 1940 war was an emergency, and after 1945 war became the economy. Now some of you are like, what am I even talking about? See, before the World War II, US was always very apprehensive about getting involved into war. Even World War I also, US was not very actively involved into it. Okay, it was there, but it was not there either. And then what happened is that there was a Great Depression. When the Great Depression started in 1929 actually, and Great Depression actually started after the war, right after the World War One. Economy was already collapsing and all that, the global economy overall, but uh, but it picked up really hard around 1929. And lots of people think that, oh, uh, that uh, Great Depression ended in 1933 or something, but no, that's not true actually. When Great Depression started in 1929, or it was when it actually picked up the pace, uh, then what happened is that by 1939, if you look at the data, then the unemployment was like 14%. US was still in deep depression, factories were idle, no solution in sight, nothing. Why? Because there was World War One, and World War One, countries were still trying to recuperate from it. Okay, there was no way to actually uh, recharge or I would say jumpstart that engine, the economic engine. Okay, then World War Two came, and when World War Two came and Japan actually hit the Pearl Harbor, then US picked up the pace. And when US got involved, then US needed hardware. And US needed hardware, then US had to provide the hardware to the allies too, of which were Soviet Union and United Kingdom. And when that happened, then between 1940 and 1945, the defense spending was raised 45 times. It was in 1940, it was $2 billion, and by 1945 it was $90 billion per year, and unemployment collapsed to under 2%. That's when actually US realized that how much potential this thing has, the war economy has. Okay, now I will put this in perspective. $90 billion per year, that budget. Okay, defense spending $90 billion per year, that is in 1945. And in 2026, Russia's defense spending is give take $80 billion. Think about it. So put that in perspective, and right now and then by 1945, when unemployment went down, then the US still faced another problem. Another problem that was that how do we grow the GDP? How do we grow the economic activity? And you grow economic activity by increasing your workforce, by increasing the work and increasing the workforce. Okay. And since world was trying to recover from the World War II, then the whole entire globe actually needed what? The economic activity, the investment, the business. So, what do? They came up with these equal opportunity employers, and all those laws were created. So, men and women, they both started to join the workforce. Okay, so all in all, in nutshell, this war economy served United States very well in a way. Okay, and by 1960, 1 in 10 Americans were working directly or indirectly in the defense sector. That is for Department of Defense. Now, what World War II actually built? What did this war economy actually do? The war economy built lots of things for the United States. When you see lots and lots of bombers, you see aircraft carriers, you see GPS net chip, artificial intelligence, and all that. You see all that came out during the World War II era, and the nuclear tech. The whole nuclear tech came out in World War II era. Einstein had given his relativity theory, and after exploring the relativity theory, actually, then Oppenheimer and the company realized that, oh, this can be actually weaponized. In fact, Einstein didn't know how this can be weaponized. And turns out that they had to bombard the nucleus with the neutron, because neutron has huge mass and it moves at the speed of light. So that's how the nuclear weapon was created. Okay, so that's why the US economy became addicted to war. spending after World War II. Okay, and this actually, what this aided in growing the U.S. economy. So the economy grew in due to what? Defense spending, and it became what? Impossible to reduce. So that defense in spending actually became what? It became defense investment. Okay, and when we all know, when defense becomes investment, then it's gonna happen, right? Now let's get into another thing. Now, all this is there, but here's another interesting part about this is that defense contractors, right? Defense contractors, what they do is that defense contractors deliberately spread factory jobs across 45 states. So that no politician can actually vote to cut the program without killing jobs in the district that elected them. So I mean, this is how they apply all this thing, the mechanism. When they get the budget, these factories are put into different states, and showing that, oh, this is job opportunity. So let's say Lockheed Martin will put its thing in all 45 states, or lots of other major states. Then some other defense spending company, some other company will put somewhere else, like that. Like for example, F-35 program, $1.7 trillion worth the projected lifetime cost. That's the projected lifetime cost of this program. It has 45 states and 1,400 companies are involved into this program. Think about it. And almost no senator can vote against it. Why is that? Because lots and lots of these senators that are there, which we will probably talk about later on as well, but lots of these senators actually invest in the stocks of these companies. They have huge investments into these companies. Okay, some of them are probably into the board of directors and all of these companies too. So how this whole thing translates is defense programs equals to job. Vote to cancel a weapons program and you just voted to close factories in your own district. Why? Because once program closes, then jobs or factories will close and jobs will be gone. Now you have to understand this. White collar job can be found. People can find white collar job here and there, but you have to understand the blue collar workers and these type of factories actually create lots of blue collar jobs. So the blue collar workers will find it very hard to find these type of jobs anywhere else. Okay, so that actually hits them hard and hits these senators also hard, because they don't get the vote, they lose the vote back, right? Then military bases basically equals to regional economy, when entire cities are built around these installations. Okay, so when you put all these things, I mean, these things are very self-explanatory. I don't even have to explain these things. I mean, when you put an ecosystem there, then it builds its own regional economy, right? And war, what do? You do the war, you create a war. And what do? You use that war to showcase your weapons, hardware, equipment, and to the world. And then what do? You send your people to for a sales pitch. Whether you can deliver it or not, that's a different ball game. Uh, but war definitely keeps the machine running. You sell that hardware, you make the money, and then again look for somewhere else to start the war. Now, if you go into pretty much all the terrorist organization, you go into all the juntas that are out there, you go into all the dictators that are out there, you'll find that probably they all have the American hardware or the Russian hardware or somewhere or something. But at the end of the day, you'll find that those hardwares are not built by them. It is somehow it got to them, no matter how. Okay, so that's how this whole thing works. Now the second reason is this. The second reason is that uh, three groups profit personally when wars continue. The non-profits from peace. Well, some of like, what are we talking about here? See, around the June 17th, 1961, okay, around June 17, 1961, Eisenhower, in his farewell address, okay, uh, he said that we must guard against acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military industrial complex. And why he said that? He said this thing because he knew what was coming. He saw what was coming. Okay. And you know what's interesting is that after Eisenhower, Congress voted to reduce the term limit or cap the term limit of a president. I think, if I recall correctly, Eisenhower was the last president who served the longest. I think he served for 3 terms or 4 terms, probably like that. And after that, Congress limited the the term limit for a president. So every president now serves at a 2 term limit. But all these congressmen, they keep serving unlimited. When actually term limit should be put on these people, not the president. President should be the highest serving authority, and everybody else should be below him. It's not the way not other way around. So what exactly is going on here? So what most people actually, there's another interesting thing here is that what most people don't know is that Eisenhower, in his original draft, said that military industrial congressional complex. I mean, he was that blunt when he actually brought this issue up. He removed the congressional before the delivery. Okay, otherwise he was calling it congressional. He also cut defense spending by 2.7% during his own presidency and was overruled repeatedly by very system he warned about. I think he was the only president, I think he was the last president who cut the defense spending. And after that, what happened? Uh, President cannot serve more than 2 terms. Now, how this mechanism actually works when we talk about three groups profit here, profit personally when wars continue. Defense corporation, military officer, elected officials. What happened? Defense corporation, they get paid for contract signed, not per war won. Okay, or how well their equipment worked, or how many equipments were destroyed. Like for example, in this war, F-35, F-15, all kinds of fighters just have been destroyed. Yes, nobody's talking about it. We are being lied to. Like for example, Gerald Ford is decommissioned, is gone, out of service right now. Abraham Lincoln is out of service, hiding somewhere. Probably it's not even functional, quite frankly. It's just standing there as a platform somewhere. But nobody's talking about it. These defense corporations basically they hide these things so that, and they call it as a national security threat, and also bad marketing and all that. That's the kind of thing they sell to the president. Okay, and so. Uh, but they still get paid. Nobody finds them that, hey, your equipment malfunction, this doesn't work, that doesn't work. So more contracts equals to more revenue. Winning the war ends the contracts. And now this is just the defense corporation. There are other systems too where what happens is that when you actually do a bad job, then what do? You make the case to the government that, hey, we tried, this is how it turned out, you don't like it, okay, but if you want to improve this thing further, then it's going to cost more money too. So what they do is that to fix the botched up job that they did first, they ask for more money, and then that continues for another 10 years. Government projects actually, government contracts, they run into 10-year terms actually, so they get signed for 10 years at a time. All right, so it's not like each year or something. It's 10 year at a time. Budget gets approved for 10 whole entire 10 years, so you have to deliver something in 10 years. That's how it is. All right. So then the next one entity that makes money from this thing is the military officer, that they get promoted in an active war zone. A peacetime career is a slow career. Okay, you get all those medals and everything, the insignias, the badges, the medals, right? The medal of honor, the valor, this and that, whole bunch of things, right? And all that happens in the active war zone. If there is no war zone, you don't get those benefits. and active conflicts equals to rank, medals, budgets. And also these, when war and active conflicts happen, then it is actually it they can actually justify using those wars, how their inflation, how much they're inflated, how uh these these departments are inflated, meaning that where if 10 admirals are needed, then there are 44 instead of 10. Now imagine that's how much the inflation is in the service members, when actually this whole thing needs to be trimmed, quite frankly. Then comes the third entity that is beneficiary of this whole thing is the elected officials. Now elected officials, you might have heard uh, quite a few people who are whining, like especially they're on the Democrat side, and then there are some on the Republican side as well. Who are these people? uh, what's his name? I mean, I always forget his name. Like, for example, let's look at John Bolton. John Bolton is there, right? John Bolton used to be the what? He was defense secretary during the Biden era. Terms first term. Then uh, you have there are quite a few. What's his name? Lindsey Graham is there. Lindsey Graham, or what? He always talks about war. Let's go to war. Yay, let's go to war. Why? Because he has things invested. Look at Nancy Pelosi. Nancy Pelosi has insider trading going on all over the place, right? So this is how they do it. Defense plans equal job in their district, job and all that. Be normal person, normal people care about the job, and with all this support, they get the job, right? And jobs equals to votes. And collect, then in lots of cases, actually, if jobs are not even there, then nobody cares about the vote. That's why the division is created. Because when they see that, yeah, they cannot create the jobs through these means, then let's create a social chaos. That's called social engineering, right? That's a different discussion. But cutting military spending equals losing your seat. This is why American military budget, defense budget, it only goes up. It has been going up after the Eisenhower era. It has never come down. When technically, if you cut the American defense budget, okay, and you just put an upper limit on it, that okay, $600 billion, $700 billion, that's it. You will see a drastic change into things, and you make these companies accountable. You ask them to really produce the results that will win the war, then they will start to do it. But now that's not the case. Okay. Then you have the third reason. uh this is even more. This is directly related to lobbying. What lobbying? The defense industry basically spends 100 million plus dollars per year buying political influence. That's exactly what it is. There is no equivalent money being spent arguing for peace. And debate in Washington is entirely funded by one side. So how money actually shapes the debate? It's a mechanism. Mechanism is what? Think tanks like Rand. Have you seen Rand Corp? Their article, go read those articles, you will see. Then Rand article, the Atlantic Council, the CSIS published reports recommending military engagements. These reports are cited at congressional hearings and White House briefings. Basically, they have created mechanism system outside that they use, these congressmen, they use to their advantage in the congressional hearings. Okay. Basically, what they're it's like they have created a game that they're going to win. They have basically rigged the game to win by default. That's how much corruption is. Okay. Many of these think tanks are funded by Raytheon, Lockheed, Boeing, Northrop Grumman, all these companies, the same companies that win the contracts these reports recommend. Step one is what? Contracts fund think tanks. Then step two is think tanks recommend the intervention. And then step three is contractors win the contracts. Meaning you take it, and then it's like you create your own data. Okay, you create your own garbage data that says Earth is flat. And then you go into the Congress, and all these congressmen, they say that, okay, we are only going to support, we only believe in RAND data or Raytheon data or Atlantic Council data. Okay. And Atlantic Council's data is saying the earth is flat. So Congress is going to believe that, yes, earth is flat. They're not going to refer to any other data. They will just say that, oh, okay, Atlantic Council says it, that's good, we are good. Why? Because they all are part of the same hypocrisy. Okay. Then comes the reason number three. I mean, there is this whole thing, like I've explained it, right? 3-year window, 2000, and now this is just another data. If you look at it, right, another data is what, in 3-year window from 2008 to 2011, within months of leaving the office, Pentagon officials, basically, okay, Pentagon officials uh, joins the board of companies that won, then general, admiral, hired as VP at weapons manufacturers, intelligence chiefs becomes paid consultant to contractors, congressional staffers lobbies their former colleagues to contractors. Then some of the, let's say, depending on what other places you have worked or what was your skill set, you go do your things. Like some of them actually start their own security company, some of them start their destabilizing company or something, meaning their company's job is just to go and destabilize other countries. Just few days ago, one American was actually caught in India. What were they doing? They were smuggling the arms and drones and everything else into Myanmar so that they can create chaos in Myanmar as well as in India. So and who was that guy? The guy was Matthew Van Dyke. Matthew Van Dyke, what Matthew Van Dyke is? Matthew Van Dyke is nothing but a defense contractor. So that's how this whole vicious circle works. Then comes the reason number 4. America goes to war to protect the dollar's position. This is a very, very, I would say, open secret type of situation. Okay. That oil is priced in dollars. Every country that buys oil must hold dollars. Okay. And every leader who tried to change that was removed. Now we know the whole story about the dollar, so I'm not gonna get into that. But leader who was removed? Saddam Hussein. Saddam Hussein, before he was removed, he was selling the oil. Sorry, he was selling the oil in euro. Within 6 months, euro went up, dollar went down, and he made billions and billions of euros. And then he was removed. For what? That, oh, they have the same script, they played the same script that they played in Iran right now. Only difference being that Iran is not Iraq. Then comes Muammar Gaddafi. Gaddafi was basically, he was talking about that he proposed what? A pan-African gold dinar to price oil, cut out the dollar entirely. He said that, yeah, we will sell our oil in our dinar and all that, in our currency. Something that started now, like Nigeria does that now. Then there are other countries that are selling it. But in those days, it was hard to do so. That's how much protective US government was towards the dollar and all that. And Gaddafi was same thing. Gaddafi was victim of it. NATO intervention in 2011, the regime change, Gaddafi kill, plan ended. And since then, what's the result? End result? Iraq. Ultimately, Iraq was taken over. Iraq was taken over by ISIS and all that. Then other and other groups and all that. Libya, the same old thing. ISIS, a faction of ISIS went into Iraq. Sorry, into from Iraq went into Libya, and Libya is unstable. And 2000 plus present today, only country that survived this whole currency war was Iran. Iran never sold its oil in dollar. Now Iran didn't sell the oil in dollar, but guess what? Sanctions and sanctions and sanctions. Finally, now we are seeing the war. Now what happened? This time I think they messed with the wrong country. End result, we all know what's happening. that President Trump is saying, "Oh, we have destroyed this, we have destroyed that, Iran is gone, pecan, this and that, all that." But, hey, NATO, can you help us? We cannot do it without you. Hey, India, can you help us? Hey, man, can you get us out of this sticky situation? We see that you guys are getting the oil from there. You can get your oil from the Strait of Hormuz. You can pass through. We cannot. Can you help us? So much for the dead economy. Dude was calling India's economy dead economy. He was calling Russian economy dead economy just a couple of months ago. So you can see this, right? That's the reason number 4. Then comes the reason number 5. America doesn't attack the real threats. It drags rivals into wars they bleed in. Now, what do I mean by that? During the Cold War, what happened? Afghanistan war, 1979, 1989. America basically, America dragged what? Soviet Union into this thing. And they supported Taliban. And guess what? Soviet Union left Afghanistan. Right? Then if you go into further, then post Cold War, Iraq and Iran calculations, destroying Saddam Hussein, Iran's primary regional rival. Now America was worried. Nowadays, US was worried about Iran and all that, but there was no reason to take out Iraq. They should have just left Saddam Hussein alive and let Iraq and Iran sort it out by themselves. They would have been busy fighting among themselves. There was no reason to eliminate Saddam Hussein. But somebody wasn't thinking it through. Right? So and then what they do, the same Iran that used to be American ally all of a sudden became American enemy. And Iran, to its defense, started to support Hezbollah, Hamas, Houthi proxies, and all that. The same tactics that America uses in other countries. Only the difference being that US didn't like the taste of its own medicine. And other thing is that US has never directly attacked a country that could fight back at scale. That's another thing too. Any country that has the capability to defend itself and has the capability to destroy the aircraft carriers and has the capability to strike the American mainland, US never messes with those countries. It was just indirect war with them. The US organizes proxies with them, and that's the strategy. You don't want to indulge into a conventional war with those countries. And then present, if you look into Ukraine, China signal, for example, look at the Russia-Ukraine war. What was happening? When first they instigated Russia on the name of Ukraine, and then what? Then they started to support Ukraine when Russians entered Ukraine. And the media was spreading the propaganda. What propaganda? Oh, Ukraine is winning, Ukraine is winning. How do you win a war by losing 30% of your territory or most of your military age population, your infrastructure, your everything that you bragged about, and you're talking about winning? How are you winning that? How do you call that winning? Right? So then these were the 5 reasons at least. Okay. Now the question is that starting the war is easy. Why, like, how this whole thing mechanism starts? Because starting the war is easy. How do you start it? And then finishing is structurally impossible, right? So what do they do to finish it, and how they fail at it? See, how they start is that the system basically does not need to invent a reason. It just needs the bar for good enough reason to be very low. Meaning that I will give you an example. Okay, let me explain this to you a little bit better. Okay, you have to follow everything, whatever is said, the policy documents and all that. When you look at all that, then you will actually understand what I'm talking about. Okay, for example, Russia keeps changing its nuclear first use policy from time to time, and the nuclear policy, ICBM policies, all that, right? They same thing with US, they keep changing it. Look at with Iran, what happened? Obama, and there was a nuclear deal between US and Iran during the Obama time frame. That deal was signed. It was signed, it was said that okay, leave it be, and we are not worried about it. Okay. But somehow a man wins the election under this campaign slogan that, oh, we're not going to start any war, we are not going to get involved into any war. And first thing that person that does is that starts a war with who? They lower that bar, saying that no, you have the nuclear weapon, you are very close to building, making a nuclear weapon. What's interesting is that Israel has been saying this thing for past 30 years, that in next 5 years Iran will have the capability to build the nuclear weapon in next 5 years, next 5 years, and next 5 years. And it's been 30 years ever since. Point being that they were just trying to lower that bar, good enough reason, so that they can just go and attack. That's all it was, for the media framing. Okay, and that's exactly what they did. Otherwise, saying that, oh, we are preemptively striking Iran because we had the intel that Iran is going to build nuclear weapon and this and that. So that means that you're going to strike Saudi Arabia too. Why? Because you are going to preemptively strike Saudi Arabia, because Saudi Arabia may have the nuclear weapon in next 100 years. Just go and strike preemptively, or go and attack Zambia too. Zambia may be a developed country in next 300 years. They may have nukes too. So you see the point, right? The point is that these are bogus reasons that are given to actually start the war. Pakistan has nuclear weapon. Nobody ever talks about it. And Pakistan is a legitimate threat. A few years ago, the Israelis was ready to buy nuclear tech from Pakistan. And Iran was ready to buy nuclear tech from Pakistan too. Libya was ready to buy nuclear tech from Pakistan as well. So now let me give you another reason. Lots of things are done, and then lots of things are started like this. Okay, like for example, in 1964 war in Gulf of Tonkin, the attack that never happened actually. The USS Maddox basically reported a second North Vietnamese torpedo attack. Lyndon B. Johnson used it to pass the Gulf of Tonkin resolution. Lyndon B. Johnson was the president at that time. Okay, the legal authorization basically that sent 58,220 Americans to die in Vietnam, just based on a false premise they attacked. NSA basically declassified its own internal study in 2005. Just like Iraq, for example, right? Iraq, they said that Iraq has WMDs, WMDs. Iraq had nothing. I mean, the reason numbers, very simple reason is that if Iraq had WMDs, then Iraq never had any payload carriers to deliver it. That's one thing. Second thing is that Iraq would really have the WMDs. Believe me, nobody would attack Iraq, actually, quite frankly. And that's how the threats get inflated. And targets get chosen. How targets are chosen? Targets are chosen because they're weak enough to make the first phase look decisive, the first attack. Just like what happened in Iran. They bombed the crap out of Iran in 12-day war, and then all this just to show that, hey, look, we are winning, we destroyed all these things. But in reality, it never did anything. So that's another reason, right? And that's how it all starts. It's not even the reason. This is just I'm talking about how it all starts, how they start the war. Good enough reason. Just keep the bar low until, and all this continues until somebody's out there to challenge it, until it becomes a further escalation and risk. So how it fails in lots of cases, for example, regime change. For example, in Iran, look at Iran, what they say, regime change, regime change. They killed all the leadership. Did anything happen? Nothing. Regime change will happen in Iran? No, there will be no regime change. You can keep thinking, keep dreaming about it. You can kill one or two people, but you cannot kill the ideology. That's the problem. So that's Iran's case. Look at Iraq in 2003. They changed the regime in Iran, and uh, so a journalist found General Petraeus riding north of Baghdad days after the invasion. Okay, and she asked, "Sir, how does this end?" General Petraeus paused. He said, "Paused." He basically paused. He was like, "Oh, I have no idea." The question was never asked in intelligence assessments, congressional hearings, or White House planning sessions. And it had, I mean, the system basically knew how to start it, but it had never planned for how to finish it because they never wanted to finish it. They look what happened in Iraq. All the American U.S. bases are gone in that region. All the U.S. bases are completely gone, decimated. They're decommissioned. They are disabled. They cannot be used any further. They're empty. So winning the military phase is not the objective, right? Because any war that is fought, it has a set objective that this is what we want to accomplish from this. When we are applying the force, that's what we want. Why? You look into any combat game, right? What do you see? Whether it is jiu-jitsu, whether it is boxing, whether it is martial arts, MMA, doesn't matter. There is a result. There is end result. How it finishes. Judges basically decide the victorious, right? What happens here? There is no objective. Objective is just to start it and make it chaotic enough that nobody understands it and then disappear. And on paper, what they say, the BS that is sold is democracy. That let's have a stable, legitimate government. Look at Afghanistan. What happened? Ashraf Ghani ran away with $400 million in the helicopter and he just disappeared. Nobody knows where is he. What happened? War lasted for in Afghanistan for 20 years. What for? What? To remove Taliban on the name of war on terror. Who is running Afghanistan right now? Taliban. It was started to dismantle Al Qaeda because of 9/11. Look at Syria. Who is running Syria right now? A Sunni based group, the Al Qaeda rebranded Al Nusra, and President Trump was shaking hands with him. So, so, but what happens is that the government, actually, the US government policymakers, they don't realize, or maybe they don't realize, or they don't care. Actually, quite frankly, the way I'm seeing it is that in the current state of affairs, I think that government doesn't care whether the other country is stable, illegitimate government. What happens over there, nobody cares. Okay, so that's what happened in Iraq. The stable government was there, but then it's gone. ISIS took over. Look at Taliban is running the show, right? And then anywhere you go, the installed government just simply exits. Look at Bangladesh. They organized a coup over there, regime change over there, and guess what? A year later, they uh, the puppet guy, Yunus Muhammad Yunus, is gone. Right? So the collapse is not military. The officials move money abroad. Officers make private deals. Lots of things happen actually. In a long war, what happens is that, let's say if you establish a company, I'll give you a simple example. Okay. Now, when you put boots on the ground and war is going to last longer, basically it's like a camping. You create a new camping site where you're putting everything. Now you have to provide the ration, you have to provide the reinforcement, you have to provide replenishment and all that to that camping area. What happens? All that is done through the companies. What companies? Companies basically that are started by all these senators and all. Look at Nikki Haley. Before the Afghanistan war, she was completely bankrupt. But after Afghanistan war, her net worth was around 10 million or 15 million dollars. So you start a company, you're providing food over there, somebody's providing, right? So it becomes a whole entire ecosystem. And then once that ecosystem is satisfied, that yeah, I think we're done, let's get out of here. So they get out. And then they look for some other system, some other place to start that thing. Okay. Now, if you look into it, then another thing, like why it fails and how it fails, it becomes too costly. There is no profit in it. You start to bleed money. Look at Taliban. Taliban's budget is what, $200 million per year. United States is to $300 million per day. Taliban has no election cycle, no approval rating, no rotation schedule, no congressional committee demanding benchmarks or anything. No such thing. They won. Why they won? Because US primary objective was to remove Taliban. Were they able to remove them? No. Right? So that's how it fails. Then then again, lots of us basically we think that it's all loss. But is it? See, US doesn't win the war in the conventional sense. US wins the war in a different way. Okay, that way is that way is pretty hidden. Actually, you have to just see it from the outside. You cannot, and that's not part of the policy. Okay, that's what I'm trying to say. What happens? The real win is that when you destroy a country, you open it for investment. Reconstruction is the contract. Military loses, country is destroyed, but what? But system wins. Mechanism one, how do they win? Destroy the economy, then rebuild it with American companies on American contracts under American financial infrastructure, financial architecture. Iraq, Halliburton plus KBR received $39.5 billion in contract. Then Bethel, the DynCorp, American firms manage the oil fields. Post World War II, Japan and Germany rebuilt under American supervision. Both became captive markets and strategic satellites for decades, right? Libya, post Gaddafi, European and American oil majors immediately moved back into fields Gaddafi had nationalized. And the same nationalization problem is in Iran. What happened in Iran in 1953? Up until 1953, Iran was very good to America. US were loved it, this and that. Okay. But then there was a Israeli lobby that basically was working towards creating petrodollar and all that, right? All that was being planned. And when Iran said that they're going to nationalize their oil and that money is going to go towards their citizens, their own people, That's when Iran became a problem. Some people didn't like it. What they did, they organized their regime change. That's when the Reza Pahlavi and all that they came. Okay. And then when Reza Pahlavi also started to nationalize it and all that, then the same CIA that brought in Reza Pahlavi and that family, they were overthrown. And then Khomeini took over in the whole chaos. So it, only thing that happened is that CIA just failed at that time to put in their puppet person. They couldn't put a puppeteer in charge over there. This time, Khomeini took over, and Khomeini did the same thing that Reza Pahlavi did. Only difference being Khomeini was out of control. Nobody could control him. Okay, so that's why Iran became the enemy. Okay, then uh, Naomi Klein's shock doctrine: destroy the economic structure, then sell the reconstruction at full price. There is a doctrine on it. It's called Naomi Klein's shock doctrine. You got to go read up on it. Then another mechanism is mechanism number 2: how United States actually wins. When a country's economy is destroyed, okay, capital flees to safety. What does that mean? Meaning that FDIs, investments, and everything else is gone. Nobody is investing there, right? Until all things settle down. Like, for example, Ukraine, nobody's investing there right now. Yes, one thing what happens, I will tell you. Okay, be prepared. I'm gonna go into it. Okay? See, during the wartime, even the prime locations in the war zones, what happened? The price of one thing drops significantly. People just leave. You don't even have to ask them to leave. People just leave. The price of real estate drops. Okay. So when price of real estate drops, you will see lots and lots of companies being created in that region, real estate companies. All of a sudden, there will be a spike in the real estate companies. And those real estate companies are going to buy all the real estate in that area at a very cheap price, dirt cheap price. Okay. And then what they do is that they either sell it at a very high price, or they, if they get the opportunity, they develop it. And then they make billions and billions of dollars off of land that they bought it for $1,000, give take probably. Okay, so that's how that happens. Okay, now capital flees, dollar denominated safety is dollar denominated assets. When capital is gone, only real estate is left. What happens? Your safety is what? There is no other currency. Safe haven currency, world safe haven currency is what? Dollar. So what do you get? You get safety in what? Dollar denominated assets. So every major US military operation triggers what? A flight to dollar effect, which means that treasury bonds spike, dollar strengthens, America borrows cheaper. Iraq destroyed, regional dollar demand increased, right? Afghanistan annihilated, no regional alternative reserve currency. They all are following the dollar. So, dollar becomes stronger. War doesn't just protect dollar oil pricing, it actively strengthens dollar demand by eliminating economic alternatives. So that's why if there are in a multipolar world and in a multilateral system where there are multiple currency baskets, then what do you think is going to happen? This thing is not going to unilaterally benefit the dollar or the United States. It may actually end up benefiting other countries. Perfect example of this is what? Can you guys tell me? Perfect example of this is the Iran war. What Iran did? Iran said that for enemy ships to pass through, we are going to allow, you will have to pay a toll tax. We have to pay a toll. Toll in what? Chinese currency, yuan. They said only yuan is the only acceptable option at this point, and we're not going to take any other currency if you want to pass your cargo ships safely pass through from the Strait of Hormuz. Otherwise, you won't be allowed to pass from there. That's the magic of multi-currency basket. All right. So the country that loses the war loses its economy. And the country that ran the war gets stronger currency. This is why world doesn't care about whether dollar is there or not, whether dollar should be used, dollar should be there, dollar should not be there. World says that no, there should not be a monopoly of currency either. All this whole entire system needs to be either replaced or should be alternatives to these systems, not just one particular thing. But this nonetheless, this is the real win for the United States. So the result, every actor is rewarded whether the war is won or lost. Nobody inside the system pays a personal price for failure. Like I said earlier, only who pays? Soldiers pay the price, whether by becoming amputee, they become amputee, or they die, they sacrifice their life. For what? In some other country that's not even their own nation. The occupied populations pay because lots of innocent people die, right? And the decision makers, they retire, they write the memoirs, and what they do, they make money off of it too. If you look into all this, like September 17, 2001, 6 days after 9/11, Raytheon prices went up, Lockheed stock went up, Northrop Grumman went up, General Dynamics went up. The stock market priced in what US foreign policy had not yet announced. Not because Wall Street is evil, but because the incentive structure had already decided what was going to happen. Defense contractors, how they get paid? They get paid based on the contract, not per victory. Intelligence agency, active wars expand their budget and authority. That's how it is. If you don't show these war zones or risks or threats and all that, then you don't get the budget, you don't get the pay, you don't get the money. And then you don't get to look like part of something important. Then career military active theater generates promotions regardless of outcome. Reconstruction from the more destroy larger the rebuild contract. The real estate firms and all that, right? The member of Congress, defense plans, rebuild contracts, protect the jobs. So this is how the whole entire system is. So the system is just designed to create a war economy, a a system to generate the money, to make money, and then disappear. So what the world learned? World learned that you don't have to defeat America, you just have to outlast it. While you are outlasting it, America's companies are already building for the reconstruction contract. Like whatever bombing and everything is done uh, in Iran, just watch. What's going to happen is that probably, and this is just my theory, okay, based on my understanding, that sanctions on the Iran will be lifted one way or the other. That's gonna happen. Only way to save the dollar is to actually remove sanctions on Russia and remove sanctions on Iran. That's the only way. There is no other way. Forget about it. If there is any other way anyone else is thinking, okay. So they will remove the sanctions on Iran. What's going to happen? American companies will move in there immediately, from Exxon to Shell to Chevron to Halliburton to all that. Okay. To make up for the loss in Venezuela, they're going to move into Iran, and then they will have rock solid who? Partners right there, the buyers. They will have rock solid buyers in India, China, all these countries. And that oil may be nationalized, not nationalized, but Iran will make money off of it. That's how things are going to play out. And this is what something Eisenhower saw this in 1961. So who wins actually? Military loses, contractors win, the dollar strengthens, rivals bleed. And this is exactly what happens. This is not a system. These wars are not designed to win in a conventional sense. Why? Because nobody attacks United States, quite frankly. Okay, it's the other way around. These wars are not designed to be won. These are designed to create an alternative economic system so that the warmongers or people who make money off of these things, they make their money, and military industrial complex becomes rich. Okay, so this is it for this video, guys. I hope you learned something. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please do like and subscribe, and I will talk to you guys in another video. Take care.